Hi, I am Professor Mendez-Escobar, and this video is part of a video series where I cover the different components to consider when writing about child development based on child observations. If you haven't checked out the other videos, make sure you go ahead and take a look, particularly the videos where I cover interpretation and writing basics. In this particular video, I'll be going over writing interpretations about physical development. Just to recap, physical development has two different areas, and that is growth and development. So growth refers to changes in size, weight, and height, whereas development is gradual mastery over physical skills. And when we're thinking about normative physical development, it typically follows a sequence that we expect to happen from birth onward. Although, with everything in development, it depends. So that's why I say typically follows a sequence, because there are some exceptionalities. Some relevant concepts to consider when thinking about physical development are that of gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and milestones. Gross motor skills refers to those skills that require the large muscle groups, and some examples of these skills include crawling, walking, running. Whereas fine motor skills rely on the smaller muscle groups, particularly those in the hand, and eye-hand coordination. And some examples include grasping, drawing, and writing. Another relevant concept to consider when thinking about physical development is a milestone. A milestone is an age plus an expectation combined. For example, by 6 months, we expect infants to sit up on their own. So that's an example in which the age is there, which is 6 months, and the expectation, sitting up. Together, that is a milestone. When you're writing about physical development, you first want to conduct an observation. So for this video, for practice, I've linked below in the description the link to this video so that you can conduct your own observation. So make sure you pause now and go ahead and take a look. After watching the video, there's some questions that you want to consider. So which concepts best explain the observation? So when thinking about concepts, it could be gross motor skills, fine motor skills, or milestones. And you also want to ask yourself, which milestones do I want to look up? In answering these questions, you might think about fine motor skills as some relevant concepts that came up here, particularly as the two children that were featured were putting together a train track. And remember, every time that you're writing about observation, even if you observe a group of children, you're always going to focus on one child. That's going to be the focus of your observation. You might also want to think about the milestones related to eye-hand coordination and putting together manipulatives such as a train track. I do want to point out that there are resources that give you information about the different milestones, such as the resource that I've linked below in the description. The thing is that sometimes these resources don't list out all of the different scenarios in which you might see these milestones in action, so as it relates to fine motor skills. So as we're thinking about children that are around 4 years old, give or take a few months, we expect them to be able to do things that require a more refinement of these fine motor skills, such as being able to cut on their own or pour. So you want to think about, well, how do those particular milestones relate to the observation that I observed? So it requires you to do some of that thinking. After you've answered these questions for yourself, then you're going to get ready to write the interpretation. So when you're writing an interpretation, a nice formula for you to have is do a recap of the observation, and that recap is short, no more than 2 to 3 sentences, combined with an explanation and applying relevant concepts. So if you think about the concepts that came up or that are fine motor skills and you want to talk about that, then when you're doing your writing, you want to identify that you're going to use fine motor skills to explain what you saw, but you want to make sure that you're explaining, well, what are fine motor skills? And then you apply it to the observation. So that's how you write an interpretation. And remember, as I mentioned in another video, the whole purpose and goal of writing interpretations is to show your evidence of understanding course content. And the way that you do that is by using developmental terms, explaining those developmental terms, citing your references, and maintaining your writing focus to the writing prompt. All right, that's it for this video. Make sure that you check out the other videos in this series.